Thank you. Welcome to you all for attending the briefing session of the House Committee. We will first ask the chairperson and the deputy chairperson to speak before we open the floor for questions. The chairperson, please. Friends from the media, members of the public of Hong Kong, good morning. Today's briefing is to report the work of the House Committee HC in this session. First of all, I'd like to ask Mr. Ma Fung Kwok, the Deputy Chair, to give you the report of our work on the scrutiny of bills and subsidiary legislation, as well as on policy issues. Mr. Ma? Good morning, everyone. In this session, the House Committee HC has held 25 meetings. On bills, the administration has so far, as at today, submitted 22 bills, 13 of which are included in the legislative program put forward by the administration. There are 9 bills not in the program. These include the Temporary Protection Measures for Business Tenants COVID-19 Pandemic Bill, which sought to provide temporary protection for business tenants affected by the pandemic. The Employment Amendment Bill 2022 aimed to enhance protection of employees during the pandemic, and the International Organization Privileges and Immunities Amendment Bill 2022, which was related to the establishment of the International Organization of Mediation. In addition, in a council meeting on the 14th of December, 3 bills will be read the first time. They are Road Traffic Amendment Autonomous Vehicles Bill 2022, Inland Revenue Amendment Tax Concessions for Family-Owned Investment Holding Vehicles Bill 2022, and the Development, Town Planning, Lands and Works Miscellaneous Amendments Bill 2022. On Bills Committees, a total of 14 Bills Committee have been formed in this session to scrutinize 14 bills submitted by the government. These included the Employment and Retirement Schemes legislations, Offsetting Arrangement Amendment Bill 2022, Occupational Safety and Occupational Health legislations, Miscellaneous Amendment Bill 2022, Residential Care Homes legislations, Miscellaneous Amendments Bill 2022, and the Copyright Amendment Bill 2022. Members have always been concerned about the time when a bill is introduced. Before mid-July, the administration has introduced 15 bills, including 7 that were not in the legislative program. Between October and December this year, 10 bills have been introduced. 8 bills on the program have not been introduced. These include the Regional Flag and Regional Emblem Amendment Bill, the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Amendment Bill, and the Promotion of Equal Responsibility Miscellaneous Amendments Bill. On subsidiary legislation, in this session, members have scrutinized 194 items of subsidiary legislation and 12 proposed resolutions submitted by the government. 19 subcommittees have been formed under the HC to study 56 items of subsidiary legislation and 5 proposed resolutions. 30 of them were subsidiary legislation relating to the prevention and control of diseases. I'd like to mention that as the government will table subsidiary legislation relating to the prevention and control of diseases from time to time, the House Committee agreed at the beginning of the year that such subsidiary legislation will be referred to the subcommittee on subsidiary legislation relating to the prevention and control of disease for consistency. Moreover, the House Committee also formed 2 subcommittees to study the emergency date of election, 6th term Chief Executive Regulation, and matters related to the reorganization of the government. On subcommittees to study policy issues, at the start of the session, members actively proposed forming subcommittees to study policy issues, to look into areas related to people's livelihood, the economy and society. A total of 17 subcommittees have been formed under the House Committee and panels. In the House Committee, members have discussed about the number of subcommittees and which subcommittees should start work immediately. The House Committee decided that 9 subcommittees could start immediately, including 4 subcommittees under the House Committee, namely Subcommittee on Promoting Development of the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau, Greater Bay Area, Subcommittee to study the formulation of long-term youth policy and development blueprint, Subcommittee on reforming the poverty alleviation policies and strategies, and Subcommittee on matters relating to the development of smart city. Currently, there are 3 subcommittees under the House Committee and 5 subcommittees under panels on the waiting list. I've mentioned some figures. If you would like to know more details, please refer to the leaflet issued by the Secretariat. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ma. This session is the first year of this LegCo term, which is the first term after the implementation of Patriots administering Hong Kong. Members devote themselves to the work of the LegCo to serve and to work for the welfare of the people. The start of the session was beset by challenges. You may recall that early this year, due to the serious epidemic situation in Hong Kong, the LegCo passed 2 resolutions on the 19th of January to authorize that meetings of the Council and its committees may be conducted remotely in order to enable the LegCo to perform its constitutional function whilst maintaining social distancing. Between February and April, the Council and its committees, including the House Committee, Bills Committees, and subcommittees, have conducted meetings on Zoom for members to continue performing their duties during the outbreak. In addition to a new term of LegCo, the 6th term of the Hong Kong SAR government took office on the 1st of July. In the first half of the first year, the LegCo has completed the scrutiny of 2 legislative proposals relating to the change of government. They are 1 item of subsidiary legislation related to the postponement of the election day of the chief executive, and a resolution on the reorganization of the government, both of them submitted by the government. Given the significance and urgency of the matters in question, the House Committee decided to form subcommittees to start studying the proposals before the gazetto of the subsidiary legislation and the submission of the resolution with a view to expedite the work. The 2 subcommittees have held 2 meetings within a short time to complete the scrutiny. The Council has passed the proposed resolutions to enable the current term of government to operate with the new structure upon its inauguration on the 1st of July. Considering bills is an important function of the LegCo, the Deputy Chair has told you that in this session, so far, the government has introduced 22 bills. Members have completed the scrutiny of and passed 16 bills. A number of these bills will benefit people's livelihood and Hong Kong. For example, the Employment and Retirement Schemes Legislation Offsetting Arrangement Amendment Bill 2022, which sought to abolish the offsetting arrangement under the MPF to give better protection to employees. The Temporary Protection Measures for Business Tenants COVID-19 Bill, which sought to provide temporary protection to business tenants affected by the pandemic. And the Employment Amendment Bill 2022, which sought to enhance protection of the interests of employees in the pandemic. Members and public officers were able to exchange views in rational discussions with a view to improve the bills. Using the temporary protection measures for business tenants as an example, At the request of members of the Bills Committee, the administration moved amendments to expand the scope of the bill to cover more affected tenants. As at today, there are 2 Bills Committees still in action and 4 bills awaiting the resumption of second reading debate. There are 3 bills, of which the first reading will take place in the Council meeting on the 14th of December. In addition, the Chief Executive has announced in this year's policy address a number of legislative proposals which cover different areas. Some of them are related to livelihood issues. Looking ahead, I foresee that the workload on bill scrutiny will be rather heavy. I believe that legislators will continue to perform their duties and assist the executive arm in taking forward the legislative work. I also hope that government officials will explain the proposals properly so that the legislative process can go smoothly. A good relationship and a healthy interaction between the executive and the legislature is part and parcel to good governance. I'm glad that the incumbent chief executive suggested the regular ante-chamber exchange session soon after he had taken office. In the past few sessions, legislators exchanged views with officials on policy issues and matters of concern. It was amicable and frank. I'm also glad that the chief executive has taken on board a number of suggestions from members. I hope that with the leadership of the chief executive and the work of principal officials, the relationship between the executive and the legislature will be closer and more dynamic. Legislators and stakeholders will be able, therefore, to get involved in the early stage of policy formulation and to accurately reflect the views of the public. Under the executive-led approach, the executive and the LegCo will complement one another to resolve problems for Hong Kong people. The coming 5 years is a crucial time for Hong Kong to start a new chapter for new development. The 20th Congress report has shown Hong Kong our direction for development and has created new impetus for growth from stability to prosperity. I expect officials to feel the pulse of the public and be responsive to the need of people. I truly believe that legislators will work with the government to enhance governance capability and efficiency, to better integrate with the national development, to serve Hong Kong and to ensure the long-term stability and prosperity of Hong Kong. Lastly, I'd like to thank the Secretariat and the Legal Services Division for their assistance to the House Committee in the past year. I would also like to thank all colleagues. Now I will be happy to take questions.
Thank you. Now is question time. So with regard to the House Committee's work, you can ask all sorts of questions. So please raise your hand and tell us which institution you're from. The one in the back, please. I'm from Hong Kong Economic Times, and you said that the relationship between the executive and the legislature has been good in the past year. So no members has violated the House rules or rules of procedures, and no member has been evicted from the conference rooms. And you said that the relationship has been good and you have been exploring different issues in a rational manner. But do you think that people may criticize that the relationship is too good, and now the role of LegCo as a monitor of the government's work has been undermined? Well, I'll share my views first, and the Vice President can also add his views. Now, just now you pointed out that for this session of the Legislative Council, in particular the House Committee, they have been working very smoothly, and we have regained rationality. In the past, members try to stop the normal conduct of meetings. So this term is very different. Now, for this term of LegCo, although we are running smoothly and we are having a beneficial interactivity with the executive, yet members of the LegCo do not just take what the government give us, or we do not just pass everything the government submitted. I can cite some examples. Well, in my speech notes, I already mentioned this. Well, for one piece of legislation that is about the business tenant bill, well, the government has listened to the views of members and expanded the scope so that more business tenants can be benefited. And there are also other examples. Last week, we passed a piece of legislation concerning anti-money laundering, and members have offered views which were accepted by the government, and the exemption scope is now expanded to cover smaller businesses so that they can operate more smoothly. And lately, we are also very concerned about two pieces of legislation. And I believe members of the press are also concerned about this. That is about the occupational safety bill. The government made some proposals and members asked a lot of questions. They also asked the government to further explain and to provide more papers. And lately we have been talking about light public housing. Members asked the government to provide further information, including the exact locations of such light public housing. And also we hope that we can get more details concerning such housing. So these are concrete examples showing that both the executive and the legislature have been discharging their duties. Now, although we are operating very smoothly, it doesn't mean that we will take whatever the government gives us. Mr. Ma, in the past few terms, well, I was also a member of the Legislative Council, and I said that I hope that a normal and reasonable culture of legislature can be built. It did exist in the past. Unfortunately, for the last two terms, there were some extreme radical actions. People didn't abide by the rules, and they were very rude. So for the conduct and language of such legislators, they would actually affect the whole society. And now the council is back to a more normal culture, and members and government officials should treat each other in a polite manner. So for the legislature and the executive, they should check and balance each other, and they should also work together. I think that we should work together to build such a culture. So for this new council, I believe most of the members will be able to achieve this. And by doing so, our work can run smoothly. Just now, the chairman pointed out that maybe we have different views from each other. However, we can discuss in a rational manner. It doesn't mean that we are not discharging our duties. On the contrary, I believe that members work very hard and they do perform their duties. Any other questions? The one in orange clothes. I'm from Oriental Daily. Just now to talk about the occupational safety and health bill. We saw some members leaving the meeting room because they were dissatisfied. Do you think this is a reasonable council culture? Are you worried that this will happen again in the future? And also for the anti-chamber exchange session, some members are not happy with the time arrangements. So why is it arranged like this? So in the future, would anti-chamber exchange sessions still to be conducted during council meetings? Well, let me first answer the question concerning anti-chamber exchange session. Well, the new CE, after taking his office, he wanted to have better and further interactivity with the LegCo. So that's why he conducted a number of anti-chamber exchange sessions. For these sessions, we have had a very good exchanges on different issues. These issues include, well, the senior government officials came to talk to us. For example, the Deputy CS came to talk to us about the campaign of cleaning Hong Kong. And I also took part in the first exchange session, which was chaired by the CE. We also told him that people wanted to have quarantine-free, they can go to the mainland quarantine-free, etc. And also other than, well, I also took part in another session with the FS. I sat next to the FS and Mr. Hui. Also, monetary authority has also sent representatives to come join us. The SFC also came join us. So it was really a very effective exchange. We all think that it is a good arrangement. We hope that the arrangement can be bettered in the future. As for the timing, well, we have 90 members, so they may all have different views. But we have a consensus. On Wednesday, on this Wednesday, we will continue to have the exchange session, and later on, we will discuss as to how to make further improvements. So all sorts of arrangements can be improved, and we will be all ears to members, to other people's views. But I would like to stress on a point. And for the executive, I would like to say this: the exchange session is just a form of exchange. It does not replace other exchanges between the executive and the legislature. Other than the anti-chamber exchange session, if there are urgent matters, we will contact the government directly. And many bureaus would respond as soon as possible. I think we also want reporters to help us to point this out. The exchange session is just a way of communication. It doesn't replace all our communications with the government. I think the government should have exchanges with all our parties and improve their interactivity with members. Today, the CE just made an announcement. That is a new anti-epidemic measure. The Leave Home Safe app is now cancelled and only certain arrangements are retained. So this is in response to members' proposals and people's aspirations for resuming normalcy. Well, concerning the Occupational Safety and Health Bill, well, for this council, under the new Patriots Governing Hong Kong principle, you can still see different members from all sorts of sectors. So we have different stances and positions. As a member, and also I'm the chairman of the House Committee, we hope that we would give reasonable time and opportunity for both members and government officials to express their views. So if members have views, they can express such views to the relevant committee and to the government. And of course, I hope that they can do it in a lawful manner.
Anything from the Deputy Chair? I'll say a few words. Well, all 90 legislators represent the people. They are all very good at expressing themselves. I would find it odd if there are no views expressed in an anti-chamber exchange session. So far, I have not heard anything negative about these sessions. They all think that it is a good arrangement. The only views are about technicalities, say, for example, the time, size of the groups, the venues, whether it's appropriate to put so many people in one single room. I think that it is an olive branch extended by the government. They have accepted our views, And I'm sure this is a very effective platform on which views are expressed and accepted. Any other questions?
Have some English questions from the South China Morning Post. Firstly, we want to ask, this year the House Committee has passed 22 government bills, and compared to last year, there are only 39 bills being passed. We want to ask, what does the chairman and the deputy chairman think about the performance of LegCo compared to last year, since this is also the first year of the Patriots Minister in Hong Kong. How do you rate the performance of the Legislative Council House Committee this year? And also, we'd like to ask, since this is the first year of Patriots administering Hong Kong, we want to ask, are there enough checks and balances with LegCo, since you mentioned that the executive-legislative relations have improved quite significantly since the first election passed. Is this relationship healthy? And lastly, we wanted to ask a bit about how some people now see the Legislative Council as a sort of a rubber stamp, and city residents seem to care less about Legislative Council affairs because of the lack of spark and tensions in the Legislative Council itself. So we want to see how you view this situation or this view from the public. Thank you.
Okay, in response to your question, my comment is, in my view, the House Committee and the Legislative Council as a whole for this year operating well. We basically seriously, all members, most of the members seriously scrutinize the bill and policy put forward by the government. And we have passed the bill in a timely manner. And of course, not everything put forward by the government approved or agreed by most of the members. We can easily quote example. For example, in the bill passed last week, that is the anti-money laundering bill. The government do accept members' suggestion to increase, to have a more exemption for the small and medium enterprise in order to fit their business operation. And there are other examples that I have to emphasize that although the relationship between the administration and legislative council back to normal, I would say. But that is, we have to emphasize that we are not a rubber stamp, of course. We are not, agreeing to everything proposed by the government. We have put suggestion, we have criticized the government, and also we have made constructive suggestions. And some of these suggestions are accepted by the government. We are glad to see that.
Yeah. Just one point to supplement is that you have to observe that for our new term, right, we only have, since we have changed the term of the legislation, that is, we start from January. So in effect, we only have 6.5 months before our summer break, in effect, right? So if you compare with the previous year, which is slightly different, they have a full term of, say, around about 10 months. So that's maybe one of the reasons that can explain the situation. And also you have to observe another point is that the government also put forward some bills which was not in the original legislation plan, right? So that's the difference.
And I don't think we just have to, number is just one thing. We have to look at the content of the bill put forward by the government. And we have to bear in mind that that is the new government who take over the administration starting from the 1st of July.
Let's ask one more follow-up question.
Sorry, can I just ask one more follow-up question? Since you've also mentioned the change of terms with the government and change of the government, can we ask, how does the House Committee rate the relationship between the previous government or also compared to the government that you are working with now? Thank you.
Well, I think the relationship between administration and legislature due back to normal. We are in a healthy relationship. I think we are performing what is the required function under basic law. That is, we have support the government, and also we do put forward suggestions for the sake of improving the governance of the administration.
後邊呢一位。
Hello, questions from RTHK. So how would you evaluate the effectiveness and limitations of anti-chamber meetings, given that some lawmakers have complained about the timing and scheduling of the meetings? That's my first question. And Ms. Lee, you also mentioned that Chief Executive John Lee has listened to lawmakers' views when it comes to announcing new COVID measures like dropping the Leave Home Safe app and Embraco. So is it a good news, and how would you comment on these new measures? Thank you.
Well, in response to your second question, to me it is a good news because we are all, want to have our normal life back, and this is a step forward, moving towards the normal life. Therefore, I welcome this policy, and I believe that with the new policy, more and more people will come out, and it do help our economic activities, which really need to care of. That is the second question. The first question is in response to the anti-chamber exchange, right? Yeah, I think I would say that it is effective because over the past field exchange, members do have a very constructive exchange with the administration. There are a lot of topics being discussed in this anti-chamber meeting. For example, I remember I basically attend most of the section. The one I attend with the CE, I do raise directly to the CE. At that time, people want to have the opening up of the border as soon as possible, and the deputy chief secretary also come in the second time to share his plan on how to do the district work, and we do have chances to raise our opinion. And the third one I attend, I remember I sit and listen to the financial secretary and also the relevant secretary to explain to us how he is going to put forward the upcoming financial related policy initiative. And I do remember there are members who raised their suggestion directly, and some of the suggestions do included in the policy address. Well, all in all, I would say the exchange is effective. I do not hear members who criticize that we should not have that kind of exchange. But two things I have to emphasize. One thing is this is only one type of exchange. It is not to exclude other type of exchange, right? Members and the administration should, from time to time, use different channel, different means to exchange regularly or in the meeting. That is key to our relationship. The second thing is in response to the technicality, that is the day and timing. I would think that we all know that different members may have different view. We will do our consultation in our own way, and hopefully later we can have a different arrangement maybe.
兩位好，商台。
I'm from Commercial Radio. Just now you talk about the views that have been submitted to you in the first several months, and 8 of them are still not submitted. Well, how do you look at this? And some of these bills have not been submitted to you in time. Are you disappointed? And in the coming year, do you think some bills have to be scrutinized urgently? Does that include the legislation on Article 23? Now, for the legislative program, well, in the beginning of this year, it was submitted to us by the then government. Now, after this government took office, it looked at the program again. It looks at the actual needs and it make adjustments. I think that's reasonable. I believe that for all the governments and for all the government officials, they are responsible and they will shoulder their responsibility and they would make adjustments according to actual needs. Well, we have passed a number of bills, and many of them are urgent, including the reorganization of the government structure. And also in the coming week, we will resume the second reading of a tax-related bill. So the government has looked at the actual needs and make adjustments accordingly. Now, as to which bills would be more urgent, well, I hope that Hong Kong can resume normal as soon as possible and our borders can be open as fast as possible. I hope the government can be bold. Other than the Leave Home Safe measure announced this morning, I hope that the government can take bolder strides forward. Well, we have also looked at the global economic situation. It's now actually quite fluctuating. And as the financial secretary said that for Hong Kong's economy, we cannot be too optimistic. So I think we should all work hard. Well, I would like to supplement. Well, for the earlier legislative program, it was preset. And as the chairman said just now, there was a change of government. So the new government may accord priority to other important issues. For example, the Central People's Government may wish us to do something that, well, for example, they would have to set up a preparatory office for the International Organization for Mediation. So that affects our legislative timetable. And also for certain pieces of legislation, the government may have to carry out further studies and surveys in order to draft a better bill. So I think all these are acceptable. In total, the number of bills have not been reduced, but just some of them would be submitted later, and for some other more urgent bills, they would submit them earlier. So this is very normal. I don't see anything normal here. Hong Kong Economic Times, I would like to ask another question. Well, you hope that normalcy can be resumed. Because now the Leave Home Safe arrangement is cancelled. Would there be new measures for LegCo? Because now when we enter the LegCo complex, we have to scan the Leave Home Safe app. So in the future, this will be cancelled as well, right? And also, will the opening hours of the complex be lengthened? And also for anti-epidemic measures, there have been a lot of disputes, and members may have different views. Some members have written articles criticizing other members' remarks. And they think that such members, when they criticize the government, they are just trying to be sensational and gain more popularity. So do you think this is actually a fact? Well, for LegCo, we will work in accordance with the government's latest anti-epidemic measures. So definitely we will do this. Well, only this morning the CE announced this new measure. So I think that later on, our president and our staff member will work something out according to it, because they are all very efficient. This is point number one. And point number two, in the council, all members were elected in different ways, and they represent different groups of people in society. So when they have different views, it's very normal, and it's also healthy. And members are free to express their views on different topics. Some of them may criticize the government, some of them may support the government, some may urge the government to improve their work. I think this is a healthy way of operation. I would like to remind members, please focus your questions on the work of the House Committee. I'm from Independent Media. Chairman, for these terms, Legislative Council, do you think less people pay attention to its work now? No, I don't think you can come to this conclusion in such a simple way. Well, we have our constitutional duty, and we discharge such duties. Now, we monitor the government, and also we work with the government. This is more important. Well, we hope that Hong Kong society can move forward, and people can live a better and better life. I think that's about it. Any other questions? If there are no other questions, I would like to thank the two members and the press. Thank you.
Go.